Well, good morning. So glad to have you with us here. Beautiful Saturday, and I hope it's off to a good start for you. As I always say, I'm very grateful to have you here as part of our growing family of listeners. Research tells us that HealthCall Live regular listeners are not only smarter than the average guy, you're also better looking than most of your neighbors, but we'll just keep that between us, okay? So we're going to kick things off today, taking a look at a no-cost and drug-free solution to all the stress that's accumulating around us today. Gosh, the election put people through all kinds of heck, and it's still going on. We've got more people hospitalized with COVID in the United States than ever, and that's true here in Indiana as well. 2,548 of your fellow Hoosiers are hospitalized with COVID-19 right now. They occupy about 25% of all the available ICU beds. Right here in Allen County, our positivity rate, the number that I think you should be watching most closely, that's at 14.9%. So almost 15% of everybody who steps forward to have a test is turning up positive for COVID. LaGrange County is the neighbor to us that has it the worst. They're at 24.5%. Things are changing this week. Oregon and New Mexico are the two states now that have moved to some form of a lockdown. They're going back into a 2-week shutdown to try and get this thing under control. The virus is on the move everywhere. People are so uptight, it's easy to understand why stress is through the roof. And that's why today we are beginning our program, as I said, with a focus on a no-cost, drug-free way to get stress levels under control. And I'd like to welcome to the program Dr. Dave Johnson to guide us through a discussion about mindfulness and meditation. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Lee. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Dr. Dave is a PhD. He is professor in nursing at St. Francis University, also works with the employee assistance specialist at Parkview Health. Dave, if I am on edge, if I just feel like I'm going to lose it, what's one thing I can do no matter where I am to help bring my anxiety into check?
You know, Lee, it's right probably in front of you right now, but often we don't reach for it. And so the first meditation I tell people to do is to grab for an anchor. And an anchor for me, it could be my coffee mug, so that I come out of my thinking and overthinking and worried brain, so that I just take a pause, Lee, so that I can smell it, I can feel the warmth of it, I can sip it. A moment of pause can help us prevent a lot of irreversible tweets, an email, an unkind word, something that we might regret. And so the pause point is the first meditation that I would recommend for anyone. And it could start simply with grabbing an anchor, like a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, to remind ourselves to just pause.
So let me just dial in on that. You're saying that it's not what that coffee or tea is going to do for you. It's that experience of touching it and being in the moment with it to ground you and get you out of your head. So I've heard of that referred to as being present. Is that,
yes,
that's the idea? Okay. So live in your surroundings instead of in your head, where thoughts can spin out of control.
Yes, the neocortex, the last part of the brain to evolve, the most easily damaged, the outer surface where we get good critical thinking and problem solving, all those wonderful things. But the reality is we get lost in thought and we ruminate. We call that the monkey mind. We go over and over and over again in that fear or that anxious brain of ours. And so the pause point of this is easy to understand, but not necessarily simple to do. Mm-hmm. It's sensory, though. If I draw arrows through your eyes, through your ears, up through your nose, through your palate, I'll go all the way to the center, right next to your spinal cord, which is breathing you, and that's that limbic system, the amygdala. It's that primitive part of the brain. It's sensory. So being present is sensory. What do I see? What do I I hear? What do I touch? What do I taste? What do I smell? It's also interoception. It's noticing organ within. People think, that's a big word, but a lot of people don't get it, so they misread their body. If I'm not hungry, then food's not the solution. And so if I'm reaching for food to cope, I might be gaining lots of weight unnecessarily. So, and it's proprioception. It's moving through time and space and regaining our sense of balance. So this thing called mindfulness, which is really easy to understand, requires a practice. We have to practice.
You have to stop and be an active participant in it. Isn't that, it's kind of counterintuitive that you have to actively participate in something that's designed to bring you back into the moment that you're in. It's hard for people to get their head around sometimes.
It is. It's an easy concept and a difficult concept because, it's so cliched. We need to be more mindful. We need to be more present. We need to pause. But I go back to very simple instructions that most of us received from a mother that said, take a slow, deep breath and count to 10 before you say or do something that you will later regret. And so, indeed, our moms were perhaps our first mindful instructors. This isn't voodoo. This isn't New Age. There's a neuroscience to hitting the pause button. In the leadership role, we call, again, that emotional intelligence. And in our fear-based world, we need to hit the pause button of non-reactivity because the body is going to keep the score, Lee. The body holds on to those stressors and those chemicals that are released during that fight, flight, or freeze response that most of us are experiencing during this pandemic.
That's a really interesting point. So even though the threat that you are fixated on, they're going to lock down again. I'm going to lose my job. My kids are going to get sick. I could die. All those things are not real. They're imaginary, but your body reacts to them as if they are real.
Yes, the nervous system does not distinguish between real or imagined, and it doesn't it's not linear in terms of if something, a good part of my career has been based in trauma, horrific crime, brutal injury, things that people have experienced. And so they're traumatized by that, and just the very thought of what took place in the past reactivates them to today. It doesn't matter if it was 2 days ago or 2 weeks or 20 years ago, they can be reactivated. And the same way with the future. If I'm worried about what might happen next week, well, it's going to activate me for one. But the other piece, Lee, is that it's going to get in the way of noticing that it's a beautiful day today.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, and I've got a really nice, good cup of coffee here, and I'm enjoying the moment. But that has to be set with intention of coming out of that worried and overthinking brain. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Yes, we should be using this neocortex to problem solve. And that's what we're doing. We're using good science to be able to move to good treatments for folks. But we also need to come out of that thinking worried brain for moments of pause and rest. And that's that parasympathetic system with deep sleep, deep relaxation. Some of us get it with pause and prayer. Lots of ways to activate this.
Well, we're going to jump into that here. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, Dr. Dave is going to lead us through some mindfulness exercises. So I hope you're in a good place where you can join us to take a breath, bring yourself back into your body, into the moment, and stay with us here on the HealthCall Live Radio Hour on WOWO. To the program. I am here with Dr. Dave Johnson, PhD. He is professor of nursing at St. Francis University, also with the Employee Assistance Program at Parkview Health. And Dave does a number of things around mindfulness and meditation, including some free workshops. Dave, before we jump into some exercises that you want to lead us through, tell us about these opportunities for people to reach you and communicate and participate.
Right. Through Parkview's Center for Healthy Living, when the pandemic hit, we decided to move our meditation classes online. So the first and third or second and fourth Wednesdays of every month, we do some virtual meditation guided practices. And those are free through our Center for Healthy Living at 266-6500, 266-6500. We also do some coaching. So folks sometimes have difficulty navigating resources, knowing where to get a counselor, or knowing how to get started with the meditative practice. And so we do some telephonic resourcing for them. They're 20-minute free guided individual sessions that we just help people to find those resources, and they can schedule that at that same number, that 266-6500.
And I will link that up on the Facebook page, and also the video of our session today will be available real soon. So I hope you'll check that out and have Dr. Dave help you out, as he's going to do with us right now. So what would you have us do, no matter where we are, what's going on? Give us some guidance here. Let's have a little session.
Yeah. So I want to do at least two things, Lee. I want us to understand that this mindful meditative practice is formal and informal. And the informal practice could be as simple as that cup of coffee that I talked about earlier in this session. If we remember what meditation is, it's coming to our senses. What do we see, hear, touch, taste, and smell? And interoception, noticing organ within. And proprioception, moving through time and space. And so everything becomes an opportunity in an informal way to practice. From being in the shower and noticing that we can smell our shampoo and feel the warmth of the water as we begin our day, versus if we're in our thinking and overthinking mind in the shower and we get out and don't remember whether we washed our hair or not. So the notion of meditation can be throughout our day. That first cup of coffee, our every time we sit down for a meal can be a meditative practice. But a formal meditation often is a place where we sit or we stand. I do a formal sitting meditation, 15 to 20 minutes every morning before I start my day. And this is what I would say to our listeners. Are you breathing? And then, of course, you would say, yeah, but you might not have noticed. And so right now, notice that your body has been breathing you 99.9% of the time on autopilot. But in this moment, you can feel your breath. Now, I can work with that just a bit as an anchor. As a nurse and as a therapist, we tell people to take a slow, deep breath. And I can move that air in through my nose if I want to notice the temperature of that air or the smoothness of that air. A lot of times with that formal meditation, we close our eyes. Now, we tell people that are driving not to do that. But if I'm at my desk and I'm having a particularly stressful day, if you're someplace that's safe to pause right now, you could close your eyes. Not because you're going to go to La La Land, but because you're going to focus on your other senses. And the sense I would want you to focus in on right now is, can you feel the movement of air in through your nose? Because your nose will moisten it, warm it, and prepare it to be received by your lungs. That sounds a bit, but the reality is we take it for granted. And especially during the pandemic, nothing's been more important than healthy, living, vital air, and that we breathe our bodies. But on overdrive, on autopilot, we sometimes hold our breath. And so what I would say to our listeners right now, take a slow, deep breath. Stop. And I'm going to use that acronym. Stop. Stop right now. Take the T of S.T.O.P is to take a slow, deep breath. Inhale through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. If your eyes are closed, you might notice more what's taking place within your body, that your chest rises as you take that slow, deep breath in, and that it falls as you exhale. The O of the S.T.O.P is just to observe. Observe what's taking place within you and around you. Inside me, if I'm anxious, or I'm scared, or I'm lonely, or tired, I can notice that, and I can just name it. Oh, there, that's what it is. I'm observing. I might also observe, if I'm outside on a walk, the sounds of the birds, or the music of the environment of just the crinkling of the leaves as I walk over them. So wherever I am in this moment, observe, come to my senses inside and around me. The P is proceed. We stop. We take a breath or two. We observe. And then we proceed. We proceed with the busyness of our lives, the problem solving, the working, the jockeying of our children and our grandkids and our finances. We need to proceed, but we proceed perhaps a little bit more balanced. Yeah.
I feel better already.
Yeah.
It is, if you do this, and I've been a follower of meditation and mindfulness, and I found that I've really been struggling through being able to get to that calm point in the past few weeks. And so I really appreciate you taking the time today to be with us and kind of reinforce those thoughts. If you have trouble doing this on your own, what do you think of the apps that are out there like Calm and Headspace and those sorts of things? Are they helpful? Are they useful?
Yeah. When I navigate people through the Center for Healthy Living through Parkview, I frequently will recommend an app. I use an app myself because I want a timer and I want a bell for the start and the stop. But sometimes I listen to an active meditation that keeps me engaged the whole time. And so I think apps are great. Initially, the diehard meditators said no way to apps. Well, then the pandemic hit, and they all jumped on board too. So, absolutely.
So, what's a sign in my life that I need this? If I know somebody and help me observe the need in someone else, and how do I talk to them about this?
Yeah. I would, first of all, how do we know that we need it? We all need it right now. But some of us are going to take it to a mat, and some of us are going to do our cup of coffee and notice the birds. But I think I go back to what my mother said, take a slow, deep breath and count to 10. And so before I would mention to anyone else that they needed to do this, I would make darn sure that I'm practicing myself, because I wouldn't want to give some advice to someone to activate them. I would lean into my cup of coffee just a bit, and I would say, hey, I've been trying out this app and it really has helped me. Or I've listened to this podcast and it's helped me. Or I've gone to this class with Dr. Dave at the Center for Healthy Living, and you're welcome to join me there for a conversation on the phone. So, yeah.
Well, I'm feeling some stress right now, Dave, because time is gone and we need to wrap this up. But thank you very much. I've enjoyed talking with you today. And once again, where do I find you? Please help me find you.
Yes, Parkview Center for Healthy Living, and that phone number is 266-6500. 266-6500 to get signed up for some of our meditation classes.
Again, thank you so much. That's Dr. Dave Johnson, and let's all just take a big deep breath and relax as we move on into the second half hour of the Health Call Live Radio Hour here on WOWO.